You're listening to the Boss Yourself First podcast, Season 3, Episode 14. Sometimes life pivots on the smallest of moments. For today's guest, Kami Guildner, that moment came in the breath of a horse. It was a spark that shifted her entire direction from corporate executive to a soulful business coach, guiding her into a purpose of helping women raise their voices, their visions, and their visibility. And I can't wait for you to meet Kami. In fact, I can't wait to meet Kami. We have been moving in the same circles here in Golden, but our paths just didn't cross, but I mean, for like years. And I always figured I'd get around to meeting her at some point. But I tell you what, I often hear of Kami's work because this woman creates connection and impact. Kami is the founder of Extraordinary Women Ignite Conference, the host of the award-winning Extraordinary Women radio podcast, and the best-selling author of Firedancer, your spiral journey to a life of passion and purpose. She was also named one of 25 most powerful women in business by the Colorado's Women's Chamber of Commerce. He helps high vibe women entrepreneurs create businesses they love with more time prosperity, more wealth prosperity, and more impact. I'm so excited for this conversation because Kami has been speaking recently about something close to my heart, and you all know what it is because I can't stop talking about it, permission. And today, Kami will help us unpack the permission to realign. So let's dive in. Welcome, Kami.
But thank you so much for having me here today. I'm excited to be here with you and to know that you're just, around the corner from me down the hill, and just excited to meet you and know you more as well.
Oh, thank you. I am also delighted. I'm also a bit of a fan. So it's an honor to have you here, Kami.
Thank you.
Before we talk realignment, I want to rewind just a little bit. Your journey from corporate to coaching began with a magical moment, the breath of a horse. I want to hear more. So can you share how that moment changed everything?
So I left the corporate world in 2008. So I always say two gifts. One, I got showed the door in 2008, which was a very good gift because it was time for me to move on. I was laid off, and it was 2008. So there wasn't a lot of VP of marketing jobs around in 2008. It was just, that time of the cycles that there was a lot of downturn in the markets, and there just wasn't a lot of VP of marketing jobs. And so I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And I had taken time. I had decided to really pause and slow down and just make space for myself because I'd been living a really full life in the corporate world, working 80-hour weeks and all the things. And so that slowing down and listening and hearing was really, really important to me. And I took about almost 18 months. So it was quite a while that I took really just to, what do I want to do with my life? But I was really starting to get a little bit nervous. I was in this space of, okay, what the heck am I going to do? And so as I was, thinking that through, I realized that there was one morning that I got up and I was in tears. I'd gone on a job interview and I was like, I don't want that job. I don't know what it is that I want. And I had a call with a coach that day, and she's like, well, what I'd love for you to do today is go out and just breathe your horse's breath. And I was like, okay, well, I had been a long time horse person, had horses my whole entire life. And I thought, well, that's an interesting thing for a coach to tell me to do. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna try that. So it had snowed like 18 inches of snow that day. So it was really deep, deep snow here in Colorado. And I mean, the trees are all weighted down, and, it was just really heavy snow. And so I started to walk out to the barn through all the snow, and my paint mirror was standing at the gate. And she was just, she's looking at me like, I'm here for you. And so I started to breathe breath with her, and she had like long frosty whiskers because it was so cold that morning. And, I was just breathing back and forth with her. And then I turned around and I put my back on her, against her back, and just closed my eyes and sat there for a little bit and was like, I had this epiphany moment that just in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, I am not meant to go back to the corporate world. I am meant to actually go start my own business. I had recently met someone who had been doing equine guided coaching with leaders and helping people figure out their what's next. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I'm meant to be doing. I had this big epiphany moment. And within a month, I was in Northern California for a month training under and mentoring under one of the pioneers in that type of work. And I never looked back. And so that was the pathway that led me into figuring out that I was not meant to go back to the corporate world, but I was really being called to be an entrepreneur. And I'd had people telling me to go be an entrepreneur. I kept saying to them, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm an executive. I've been doing this my whole life. And, you know, we get tapped on the shoulder over and over again. And it's finally like, okay, I got it. I heard you finally.
Wow. That's so, I mean, every element, first of all, you're a great storyteller. And so I could just picture the frosty breath of the horse. And I could picture it even as you leaned back and like the breath is still coming, like right here. And the epiphany happens. And it was just so visual. And I could see that that would be exciting. And to have the horse be part of the coaching journey, even in your practice, is very exciting. Are you still doing equine coaching?
I do still incorporate. So I'm a business coach, and when my clients come into my mastermind programs, part of the program that they get is a weekend retreat with me, with the horses, and it's my clients will all day long say it's like because as entrepreneurs and as executives even right, we're always doing something. We're behind computers. We're always doing things, and the opportunity that we really have is to tap in at a deeper level. And that's what the horses are so good in doing is like being able to bring this like ability to listen more deeply. And I think that's, if I go back to that moment, it's exactly what happened. I was able to listen more deeply because I was in a different space. And so I find for my entrepreneur clients, it is one of the ways that, we're doing a lot of things that are strategy and, applying a lot of things, but it's that soulful listening that makes the magic in our lives.
I think that it was beautifully said. As I mentioned earlier, you've been speaking recently because I subscribe to your newsletter, and you've been speaking recently about the permission to realign. And that language just resonates so deeply with my own work, as I shared with you before we really jumped on the call. But you even mentioned ripple effect, which I also speak to specifically regarding the ripple effect of us giving ourselves permission on the ripple effect that goes out into the world. And so the shared phrases are what got me moving to reach out to you. And I thought, I have got to stop dancing around and thinking we're going to run into each other one day and just make that happen. I'm so glad that you said yes. And I am so excited you're coming to.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah, I know. And it was just spur of the moment. I was reading your newsletter and I'm like, I'm going to reply to the newsletter and just see because I was so excited about the commonalities that I saw.
Got your new book out that's all around this, don't you?
Yes, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes. I appreciate that. And I want to hear from you. So what what is it about realignment? And what does it mean to you? And why do you think that matters so much for us to give ourselves permission to realign, particularly as entrepreneurs and leaders?
I think we get caught into this is what I've always done. This is what I do. I mean, I can go back to the corporate world. This is what I've always done. I've always been an executive. And so, I just didn't even see that other pathway. And I think that's what happens is we get blind to other pathways. And sometimes we hear this calling that there's supposed to be something different. And we're like, but I can't because I've got all of this that I'm holding, right? We're holding up so much. And when we're in this place of holding, we don't open up to the ideas of what else is possible. And when I use the word permission, it really tied to the fact that so often we just think that this is the only way. And what if we gave ourselves permission to start exploring? What if we gave ourselves permission to say, what if? What if we gave ourselves permission to say, there's another way that I could do this and be open to what else is there? And if we don't open ourselves up to the possibilities of change, we don't even see the pathways.
Yeah, that is powerful. That is powerful insight, particularly when it comes to realigning, because if you don't have a vision for what that could look like, what adjustments even need to be made if I
Exactly.
don't know what options are out there. And
Exactly.
I think that you're right that when we get weighed down with responsibilities, when we're in that time crunch, I love your time prosperity phrase. I think that that's beautiful. I just the other day, and I cannot remember where I saw it, but it was talking about time poverty. And I thought, what a switch from time poverty to time prosperity. And I think that's beautiful to consider. Could I have time prosperity?
Yeah. When I think about time prosperity, it's not just white space on our calendar, but it's actually the energy that we move through our days so that we're taking pauses in between meetings. We're taking pauses between the end of our day and when we go, meet our family to have dinner with them. We're not rushing through everything, but we're actually making space to breathe in between.
I like the way you said that in it because it is about energy intentionality
Hmm.
around managing and stewarding our energy. One of the things that I talk about with my clients is knowing kind of when is your energy? What part of the day are you feeling the most energetic? And really being intentional about what gets to be in that space. And then, as you said, allow those pauses to sort of, how do I re energize?
Exactly. Exactly. It makes a lot of sense.
All right. So I think that that's powerful. Again, I'm just playing with all these concepts that you're sharing. I feel like there's just so much value here, but I am curious for my listeners and for myself as I think about scaling my business, as I think about how realignment works with that, and that you emphasize scaling with simplicity when it can be really overwhelming to give space to start thinking about what that looks like and to put it into action. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, when I think about scaling with simplicity, I'm looking at it through a lens of how do you build a business model that really gets you to where you want to get to, right? So if you've got to say you want a number, so one, do the math behind it, really dive into the math and understand, like how many of this product do I need to sell to get to X? And if you are having too many products, if you're trying to market, 10 different products all at once, every month you're going to be in a space of being pulled in another direction. So when you're trying to simplify, what you really want to do is get clear about your market, simplify the number of products that you have, build your products in an accelerating place. So a client can come into you early on, right? It's like they come in and they're working with you with one product. What's the next step that you're going to meet them in? And so you're really thinking that through that customer journey. And you're creating this repeatable marketing that you can bring clients into your business so that you're not having to recreate everything year on year. I'm hosting my 11th annual Extraordinary Women Ignite conference, right? That is
Yes.
something that is part of my marketing that's repeatable. And so not having too many products, but also getting really clear on what are the ways that you're marketing to your clients, that you're bringing clients into your business and get really good at those things. And then all of these different aspects help you really create prosperity, time prosperity, and wealth prosperity.
Well, I hear a marketing voice in there. I hear all those years of experience in marketing coming out to keep it simple,
Yeah.
to keep it focused, to
Yeah.
get really an expertise in what you're doing and to make it repeatable.
And it's interesting. I mean, I'm applying this right now to my business. I have multiple times over the course, I've been in business for 16 years. So my products have shifted and changed over the years. And what's happening is right now I'm in another shift and I've got this next level of awareness coming up and how I'm going to serve my clients. And it's really about serving movement makers, women who have something that is big and that to help them really scale and grow their businesses. And so I've got a new program. I'm simplifying how many programs I have into a single program that I'm going to be putting my focus in 2026. So it's always an evolving movement, right? That's happening there.
And I think that you hit on something really important. Life is dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Even though we simplify down and we get really good, we still have to have that openness that you were talking about. What needs to evolve?
Yeah.
What needs to grow or shift to meet the needs of how my clients or my people are growing and shifting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. So I want to circle back because I feel like this just naturally leads us into your soul plus strategy approach. And Cami, when I read about it, I love how it gives women permission to both leverage their intuition and their business strategy without sacrificing one for the other. Because I think most of my leaders are high achievers and they're looking to grow their self leadership, to create lives of impact. And this idea of integrating soul and strategy, I think it can feel like a tension, like you have to choose.
It can.
I would like for you to speak into that around how
Yeah.
do we read? and grow both personally and professionally.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, I came out of the corporate world with a very linear way of thinking. I was really good at strategy and had done, marketing for many, many years in the corporate world. I was a VP of marketing, led large teams, all the things. So I had the linear down really, really well. I did not have the soulful side down. And in fact, if you would have asked me, 16 years ago, if I had like this spiritual side to me, I would have laughed at you because I really did not. But luckily, the horses led me right into the world of spirituality and soulfulness and being able to listen to my inner wisdom and, look for the signposts that are out there, the magical signposts that can guide us in one direction or another, and just learn to listen in a different way. And so when I first started my business, I was in that space of that was kind of the private space of me. And then I had the strategy side of me. And so I worked with both sides, but they weren't integrated. After I'd started my business a few years in, I spent a day and I was like doing all of this kind of introspective. I was playing with the eclipse. I was trying to figure out what the heck, where I was gonna take my business next, what was there. So I was playing with the eclipse. I was outdoors in nature. I had crystals and candles and all the things out there, sage, and I was playing with all of this and I was journaling and I said, what does my business want to be? And what I got back was it wants to be a soul business. It like came through just loud and clear. And I was like, and I think it was the word spiritual actually versus soul, which was even a bigger stretch for me, right? And I was like, what? What? And so I had to really sit with that. And what did that mean? And what I've learned over the years is that my best inspiration, my best wisdom comes when I make space to be in that soulful space. If I can, like just like going back to the horse's breath, right? It was like a very tuned in, connected space. Anytime that we can listen to our inner wisdom, and I believe that, we have this ability to tap into this wisdom that's within us to hear whatever we need to be hearing right now. And that, when you mix that with the strategy, is what makes us really magical in our work because we're pulling forward our callings, we're pulling forward why we're here right now in this time to do the things that we're doing. And it just gives us a different groundedness that we can move from and a different knowing that we can move from if we listen first and then we apply the strategies. So to me now, it's definitely all about putting them together and integrating soul plus strategy. They're not separate. They work hand in hand. And when we can create that kind of space for ourselves, that's where we really elevate into the work that we were put on this earth to do right now. And I think that's the big piece of it, right? It's that big shift of we're all on this earth right now to do with our gifts of who we are to make an impact. And we can ignore that, or we can really listen and we can start stretching ourselves into new spaces that allows us to really create the difference that we were born for.
I'm hearing this theme, Cami, of this listening piece. And I've heard it in everything that you've shared with us so far. And so I'm getting my head around that as well, and I'm sure our listeners are. So I'm curious because I know that storytelling is a big part. Obviously, you're really good at it, but also it's a big part of kind of your work. So could you share a story of someone who you kind of walked through this process, teaching them how to listen, helping them to realign, someone who's showing up fully and kind of share what shifted?
Yeah, so I can tell you, like I've had who do I want to play? I want to play with. I'm going to use Jill as an example. So Jill came to me and she had built a really incredible business, but she wanted to become the CEO and take her business to a multiple six-figure level, and that's what she's done. It's been really fun seeing her take that business to the multi six figures. And when she was able to just really listen in, it wasn't just about building a business that earned a certain dollar amount. It was very much about the lifestyle she wanted to create for her family. She had kids that were getting to the age of graduating from high school and moving on into college. And she's like, when I envision what I want my life to look like, I want to be able to take the month of their graduation off and be able to spend time with my kids during that and put all of my focus to my kids' graduation. And then I want my business to grow and scale at the same time. So that clarity of, she didn't just want a business that grew. She wanted a business that gave her space and time to make that for her family, to really be able to spend time with her family in very intentional ways. Like to be able to take a whole month and say, this is not a month of working, this is a month of focusing on this graduation. And she's done that through 2 children now, or young adults, I guess I probably should say.
I love stories. I love stories because I could totally picture Jill and the priorities, because that speaks to me too, although my kids are a little bit older. But yes, the kind of the why
Mhm.
that we want to do these things, and then remembering to make space to actually do those things, to build a life around something that honors those values, and yet can still have that element of prosperity in time and money.
Yeah,
Very,
absolutely.
very exciting. Beautiful gift that you can come alongside women and do that kind of work. So, just to kind of sum up for our listeners here, and you're welcome to repeat yourself, whatever that looks like for you, could you just share, maybe, again, you can say the same things if you want, but just a couple of simple little practices, first steps in this realignment journey, or this listening to realign moment that we could take today if we wanted?
One of the things I like to do with my clients early on, especially if they're starting to think about, like they know that there's something different for them than what they're doing right now, but they don't know what it is to go out and do, I call them a 360 strength interview. And you actually are getting other people to recall stories of you at your very best. And in my book, I have a whole exercise. I mean, I have the survey you can send out to people and people can send it back to you. But what you're listening for is, if you start to see yourself through the eyes of others and ask them to say, what stories they've seen you at your best at. And, so they recall a story, oh, I remember this time when, right? And what you're looking for is like, what was it about that time? And you can ask them the same question. Gosh, somebody's knocking on my door. Hold on. Can I pause?
Okay, we can
Okay.
pause.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
absolutely. No worries.
So sorry. That was a wine guy that my husband was like, the wine guy's coming between 11 and 2.
Say how much I love that you have a wine guy.
Well, it says the delivery guy delivering wine that you have to sign for,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Oh, well, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
sense. All right, we're just gonna
Okay.
side note.
Yeah.
Side note.
Yeah.
What kind of wine do you like?
I don't know what it is. Oh, I do know what it is. It's an Oregon Pinot, because we were just in Oregon and he ordered some wine when we were there. So
Very
that's what it
nice.
is.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sorry.
Okay, let me go
Circling
back. Let me circle back. So I was talking about,
the 360,
yeah,
the
okay.
questions that we can
Yeah.
ask when people see us at our best.
So what I always recommend to my clients is to go do what I call a 360 strength profile. And this interview guide offers our questions that you would have somebody respond to. And this is in my book, so you can get the download of this if you want. It's an exercise where people are recalling the stories where they've seen you at your very best. And when they start to recall those stories, we can explore and we can go a little bit deeper with that. And we can say, well, what was it about that story? What was it about me that you saw in that story that made me really shine in that moment? And you send that out to, say, 10 people in your life. And it can be people from all walks of life, people you've worked with. It can be people that are family members, friends. It's just like you can just get a whole spectrum of people. And what you hear back is they start to get into the heart of who you are at your very essence. And you start to pull that out. And so often what we don't do as adults is we take the time to explore who we are at our very core and our very essence. And if we can pull that forth and say, okay, what are all the things I could do with the gifts of who I am, and make a big long list of that, that starts to open up the door of, oh my gosh, I could go do 10, 20, 50 other things, which is the right one for me to do right now based on what my values are and all of the things. But that starts to give you clarity to move forward in an aligned way that is aligned with who you are, aligned with your values right now, aligned with what's calling to you, what you're dreaming about. And so making that kind of space to do that will really open up the door to helping you realign to whatever is there for you to, to tap into. And it's a beautiful journey to go through. It's what my book Firedancer is built around. And I think we don't take that opportunity to realign often enough because we get stuck in this, this is just what I do every day. And when we can really listen to, what's calling to me right now, that's when the doors really open up.
You know what came forward as you were talking? I love this, by the way. I think I do a 360 with people, clients in a professional manner, but I like this one. I
Yeah.
like the idea of this. Let's just explore and unpack. I'm not looking to see how to pad my resume or what words I need. Those are valuable things, but I'm trying to capture for myself what people see when they see me at my best, which is so empowering. But what I think I'm hearing, and you can push back on this if you want, is that this kind of work helps people separate what they do from who they are.
It definitely does. And that was a really big stretch for me when I left the corporate
Mm,
world because I was pretty tapped into this is what I do and I thought it was the same as who I am. And
yeah.
when I went through that work, and so the work is all based in appreciative inquiry methodology, which is a positive change management philosophy. And I was leveraging that when I left the corporate world. And when I started to realize that I was someone, who am I versus what do I do? That I had to really distinguish between that. So I'm sure I absolutely agree with what you're saying, how you're working with your clients, that it makes a big difference to be able to listen to who we are and then move from that space. And I think that's what we don't do enough of in our adult lives because we work hard and then we get the next, opportunity. We work hard and we get the next opportunity. But instead, what we're doing here is we're listening to who am I? Why am I here? And, what impact do I want to make with the gifts of me? That's what really shifts things up.
Asking and the listening.
Mhm.
I think those are the things that it keeps circling back. And it does take courage. It takes courage to give yourself the authority.
It takes a lot of courage.
It does to do this kind of work.
Every little step, just
Yeah.
acknowledge this every step as the courage that it takes to go that next step. And then the next step is a little bit bigger, and the next step is a little bit bigger.
And I like how you broke that down because it's not like swallowing the whole elephant. It is just taking a little bit and then you do a little bit more. And that's how you stay out of overwhelm. And that's how you embrace that simplicity.
Yeah.
I think that you've cued in on something really important because I heard you say multiple times this is not something we generally make space to do. But I also know that you have created a very powerful space for this kind of realignment, for this kind of learning how to listen and taking the time to do it in your conference, Extraordinary Women Ignite Conference. I think you said it's the 11th annual coming up.
It's the 11th annual on November 6th through 8th. So it's coming up and it's an amazing event. And we take time and space to like listen to our inner wisdom and then we apply some strategy and listen and then we apply some strategy. So that's the flow of it. You walk away with a plan for your new year and it's a wonderful community. Everyone who comes to the event that's one of the first things I'll tell you is the community is just so powerful to be in a room full of women who are wanting to make a difference with the gifts of who they are and their work that they're putting out in the world. So it's a really fantastic place to be in community as well.
I hear your energy around that and your passion for it. And I mean, 11 years in the making. I think that it probably has evolved a bit
Oh yeah.
as you've gone along, but the underlying current is this connection and this community. And to be honest, that's probably what I heard first about you when I heard of Kami Guildner and this conference that she does, and it's amazing. And so I'm excited about. Is it too late? Because it's soon, right? Is it too late to join?
Well, it's November 6th or 8th. No, you absolutely. There's tickets available. You can get them at kamiguildner.com/ignite. And here's a little hint. If you put in EWR, which is my podcast, Extraordinary Women Radio, EWR, you're going to get $200 off your tickets. So there you go. Yeah, that's a way to, just come join us.
I love that. I love that. And if anyone wants to come join, you heard, and we'll have the links for that in the show notes to make sure our listeners can find your event and find you. So, as we kind of close this out, in this season of permission, I've heard from my listeners that a super popular aspect of our season has been this permission slip. It wasn't even something I intended to create during this season, but it sort of just came naturally one time. And then it was like, oh, we got some good resonance with that. And people were like, oh, I really like that part. So I want to pull your work into that, Kami, as we're kind of coming up with the permission slip. So here it is. And this is permission for listeners to give themselves. It's not something I'm gifting them. It is them doing this. You listeners out there doing it for yourself. Say it out loud, write it down, post it in a visible spot. But here it is. I give myself permission to realign with what matters most: my time, my energy, my vision. And when something feels out of sync, I authorize myself to pause, make that space, reflect, and adjust. All right, that wraps up our time with Kami. Thank you again for being here. I love the vision and the expression of your work, Kami, and I have treasured our time together.
Thank you so much for having me, Robin. And I'm so glad to know you now. And I look forward to staying in touch.
Yes, I'm excited about that too. Thanks for listening. If you want a deeper dive into our season, pick up 3 Permission. It will walk with you as you realign and move forward. I would also love to stay connected. Join my email community for simple, useful ideas you can put to work each week. The link is in the show notes. And to those of you who keep sharing the show, thank you. You help this message reach the people who need it. If this episode helped you, text it to a friend, post it in your stories, and leave a quick rating or review. I am so thankful for you. In fact, I'm grateful for all of you listening, and I cannot wait to hear how you give yourself permission to realign this week. Take care, everybody.